is Tim Lee. Welcome to another Draw Too Much lesson, critique, guide, whatever the case may be, because there's going to be several parts to this video that we're going to talk about today. First off, checking out another piece from TAC, one of my students in my Patreon class, and we'd love for you to join. If you want to learn how to draw caricatures, consider joining that class. We do a once-a-month live class, usually on the weekends. And then second to that, and more importantly, quite honestly, is our Discord community, where all of our artists hang out, share their artwork, inspire each other. It's truly amazing what you guys, what my patrons have created and have just made in our Discord community, and that's where I get excited because you guys are supporting each other. So consider checking it out. The link is going to be in the description below for you to check it out for yourself if you have any curiosity on learning caricature hands-on, one-on-one. While I quickly clean up these glasses, I also want to tell you about something else. Today we're going to be drawing in Clip Studio Paint Pro. I love this program. Drawn in it for as long as forever, including back when it was Manga Studio. It's a really, really amazing program for artists. And I'm also drawing on this Wacom Cintiq 21UX. It's a pretty old model, quite honestly. Very, very old. I bought it used a very, very long time ago. And I'm in the market for another one. And I've seen some that are much more affordable than Wacom's tablets are, though Wacom is known to be the best. I want to give the opportunity to check out some other brands. I've contacted a few of them. One of them did contact me back and basically said, meh, we love the idea, but maybe not with you, just because of my viewer counts and such, but certainly it was nice to at least hear back and have them say no. Everyone else, haven't heard back. So if you know of any companies that maybe you would suggest, or maybe you are a company and you want to have one of your boards checked out, then please, by all means, give me a contact. And here's the thing, let's go ahead and switch over here into our computer program, and you can see I've had to cover up all the black area that's over here next to everything here, and that's because this only does 1600 by 1200. So anyway, I digress. I want to get a different screen, and I want it to be a 1920 by 1080 so that I can fill up my whole recording screen so you guys can see better detail. This has been an amazing screen for a very long time, but I think it's about time to consider looking at an upgrade. Okay, today we're looking at TAC's artwork, and TAC is doing some really amazing stuff with his caricatures. He's come a long way in a very, very, very short period of time. I've barely even instructed him. We've just given him some little suggestions, and he's just so inspired by caricature. On top of the amazing art that he already creates, he's already on the road to success in no effort whatsoever, and he's helping the community just be an awesome place as well over in our Discord. But I want to talk a little bit about something that I think people think very lightly of, and that's negative space. Negative space is something that you have to train your brain to see, but it's such a very, very key thing in the world of caricature. Now, before we move on, I'm going to put a link right up here, actually, I guess way over there, on this video, where you can take a look at another video that I did that's actually one of my more popular videos, showing how to work with the T in the face, using negative space, using referencing to help you get those likenesses a little better. I think you will appreciate that video, and this will cover a lot of those details as well. But since that's a very, very long live stream, I figured I would just go ahead and do this again here, and then give you the opportunity to go check out that other video. So let me go ahead and switch over to a red pen here. And let's just go ahead and look at areas of negative space that I think people miss. And so usually negative space is areas of black. It's areas of high contrast, and that's an excellent way to put it because I said it obviously. Yes, very narcissistic in my own statements. But here's what I'm saying. Most people think of negative space as a key area of black, a key area where nothing is. Say, for instance, right here in the mouth region, one area that folks are like, yeah, obviously that's negative space, is right here with the teeth and the mouth. And yes, absolutely, that is definitely an area of negative space where there is just a void of negative space. And that's a very key thing to remember. These areas of negative space can really help build likeness. But what about other areas? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the areas that I think people miss when it comes to negative space. Let's go ahead and start with the eyes. One thing that I find is that eyelashes can really help build a likeness in a major way. And so one of the things that you can do is look at the corners of the eyes and the eyelashes and where they go. So obviously this guy does have some eyelashes. They get pretty bold in the center of the eye. But as it comes to the outside here, you can see this big shadow shape right here, almost like a uh, I mean, I guess you see that more in anime than you see it in anything else. But this kind of shape right here that seems to build off the end, and here not so much. On this side, not so much. But you can see all of this black here. This is a great area of negative space to keep in mind. This is a great way to find likeness as well. So if I back up here and I show you this again, maybe now you'll see it a little better, okay? You can see this area of negative space right here. Keep that in mind as you're looking for areas of likeness. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't stop at just the areas of black. Let's look at white. Okay, now, like I said, this is a very helpful thing when it comes to high contrast, but then I'm going to show you some areas where people, I think, neglect. So, areas of white, and an area that really helps to get the likeness right is in the eyes. And so one of the things that you need to keep in mind is how big the pupil is and the iris is inside of the eye itself. And the best way to do that is to look at the white of the eye. How much white of the eye is actually showing? So right here, we can see how much white in the eye is actually showing on both sides. So like that and like that. And knowing this, how much white is actually showing, really does help build up that likeness. I just made him look like a demon, but please bear with me. Knowing that white really is going to help because it's going to show you how small the pupil is, how big the pupil is, and it's also going to show how that white dances off the black in that negative space. So that's another area to remember when you're going about and looking at stuff. The negative space, obviously the pupils themselves are a negative space. Basically, anything that you target as an area of negative space is a negative space. And that's the key point. Negative space is a measuring tool that you can use pretty much anywhere on the face. It's not just in one key area or another. Let's move on down here to another area that I think people don't think about, and that's the muzzle. Yes, humans do have muzzles as well. You take that and you stretch it out, you got yourself a dog face, per se. But the muzzle's a very key thing that helps build likeness as well. And the negative space of that shape around that muzzle can make all the difference. With the way the shadows are on this face, we can kind of see this muzzle shape come around here and curl back into the mouth, like that. And then we can also kind of see the form continue down like this around here, around the chin. All right? And then I also like to consider the negative space as it comes down and shows the nose coming over that negative space. And the best way to really see this is to simply fill in this whole area with a full fill. Okay, now I'm not saying you're going to do this on every piece of artwork you do, but what I am saying is measure and memorize what that negative space looks like. You can see that we have this negative space here. You want to make sure that when you take this and you move it over to your caricature, and you're drawing the same area of the face, it needs to have the same shape. Now, it might be stretched, it might be adjusted, because you're doing everything in proportion to something else, which is something that we teach very, very importantly in the classes. But you need to keep it this same form, whether it's adjusted, whether it's stretched or contorted. It needs to remain in this form, and that's a very key thing. Now, here's where you can see that maybe that didn't work out so well with this piece over here. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at Tack's piece. First off, I think he did a great job. There is a likeness there. I think that if this was a Disney caricature that was sold at Disney like I used to do, I think that this gentleman would have been perfectly happy with the caricature. I think he would have thought it looked like him, and that would have been fine. In a studio piece, maybe some more refinement would be done. Maybe changing up the shape of the face would be done. But here's the point I'm going to make. And this is not critiquing Tack's work nearly as much, even though this is an area that I would have suggested Tack take a better look at. I'm just teaching a technique that you're going to need to refine some of the details in your next piece that you work on. If we take a look at this shape that I just mentioned and we bring it over here and we try and see about this negative space that's on this face, I think we can kind of see that the negative space of this face goes like this. Okay, negative space here. We can also go around the tip of the nose. Okay, and let's go ahead and fill in this negative space and see how much these shapes match. Okay, let me fill it in here. There we go. And the other side. Okay, so we've pretty much filled it in with a little kind of dirty side here, but here's the point. There is a pretty obvious difference between these two shapes, and it comes from this area. It's the laugh line, okay? That laugh line needs to be done a certain way, okay, to properly get the likeness. I understand why he built up the cheeks, but those laugh lines are pretty important. So let me back up here a little bit since I'm drawing over the original artwork, and let me put a new layer up here. There we go. What should have happened here, more importantly, is we can see this downturn of the laugh line, and we can see it turn and connect into the sides of the mouth. All right, that is the same thing that should have been done here. It should have turned and connected into the sides of the mouth. And if you look, the laugh lines here, I call them a concave shape, because if you were to look into this area, it would be like you're looking into a cave, okay? On tax piece, if we back up here and look at tax piece, we see it like this. This is called a convex shape. You might have learned this in school. This convex shape comes out towards us. It's like a dome. And so right here is an area where I think, yes, I can see why you put your effort into building up those cheeks, but actually, truth be told, the cheeks are there, but they're not nearly as expressive as this odd shape that just seems to have a form to itself. So I would have made an effort to find a way to mimic that form here. And then you can build off this shape, and that shape would have been a little better that way. So that's one area that I would use, and negative space plays the major role of helping you find these things. And like I said, negative space truly only works when you train your brain to see it. Not when you just hope it appears. It needs to be something that you train yourself to see. Let's take a look at this again here. Looking at the eyes here, looking at the negative space of the white and of the black. Let's come on over here to tax eye, and let's have a close look on there. So we can see here that there seems to be a lot more white in his than over here. So there's much less white in these eyes. And if we look, it's like two triangles, where here the shape seems a little different. So I would have personally, and this is just me, I would have personally, let me scoot back forward again, new layer, I would have continued that same triangle shape here, okay, and I would have refined this. And then secondly, I would have put in the tear duct here, because that also affects that white of the eye, and then you can bring it around here. Now, as you come to the side, we see this big area of black space, aka negative space, and that would be an area that you want to include in there. Now, obviously, because we've done so much work to this, now the eye is not in place anymore, so that means you have to replace your pupil, and you're obviously going to have to make it smaller to make it count. And it needs to try and match, as much as possible, the same negative spaces of this eye over here, okay? So it all needs to still fit. That is how you get a better likeness. You look for those areas of negative space. And just as we've taught in caricature in a million videos that we've done here, on top of all the courses that we're teaching, caricature is not a distortion, it's an exaggeration. And everything has to be done in perspective. When you choose to make a change in one part of the face, the rest of the face pulls or stretches from that same stretch, from that same adjustment. Think about making a clay model. Hang on. Yeah, hang on. Believe it or not, I did do this at one time. Let me switch over here and show you guys this little guy here that I made a long time ago. Boop, here we go. Okay, so have a look at this little fella here. I'm so sorry. This is a little attempt that I had of trying to do a bit of sculpture. I'm actually pretty proud of it for what it is. But here's what I want to talk about here. If I was to make adjustments to any part of this face, if I was to pull the cheeks down, if I was to push the nose together, if I was to push the nose to the side, if I was to take the whole face and squeeze it to the side, everything in the face would be affected. It wouldn't just be just the nose being adjusted. If I squeezed the nose in, it pulls in the cheeks. It might even pull in the eyes, depending on what material you're using to make some of this stuff. All of this is going to be affected in the final piece. Yeah, I know. It looks like me, doesn't it? It's because I'm a narcissist. Everything looks like me. So in the same way, anything that you do in your caricature needs to have the same effect done. When you pull or stretch something, it needs to affect the whole face. In the same way, you need to play with the negative space in that exact same way. When you affect one area of negative space, you need to see what other areas it also affects. That's going to help you get likeness. That's going to help you get essence. That's going to help you find the final piece that you're looking for. And these are the little details that are really truly going to make your caricature make or break. Okay? Let's go ahead and finally look at one or two more little things. I definitely, in Tack's piece, would have enhanced the mouth a bit more. Okay, I do feel like he's got this shape here that would definitely help. But I feel like this guy's mouth on the corners here come to a very, very sharp Joker kind of grin. So I wouldn't have put this shape in here. I would have brought this to a Joker type point and then pulled it back in. And I would have made sure that because of all the negative space that we see over here, all of this excess black that seems to really be defined there, I would have made his teeth smaller in there and had that negative space be just a little bit larger to really fit that personality. I would have pushed that just a little bit extra. That is just a couple areas of negative space to keep an eye on. And, I mean, other areas to keep an eye on here, like I said, you use negative space as a measuring tool. It's not one specific thing that we're looking at. It can be used anywhere. It can be used anywhere. Here, for instance, is another area that I look for negative space. How vast is the forehead, okay? Another area I look at is this shaping around the eyes here. How bold is this on top of the eyes? I also look here. How deep or wide is the bridge of the nose? I also look right here. How tight are the eyes inside of the bridge of the nose? See, like that. Negative space can be used anywhere to help you define things, and it's mainly just a way of using your brain to see things that the usual person does not see. And let me tell you, and Tack would agree with me on this, Tack is a police officer and has gotten to use his caricaturing knowledge that he's learned from our classes, not from our class, from our community. He's only been in, I don't even know if he made it to yesterday's class, but in the definition that he has learned from our caricature lessons, he has actually seen different perps, different bad guys that have tried to hide or disguise themselves, and he's recognized them because of his knowledge of caricature. He has said that in our classes. It said that in our community, and it's really awesome to hear him say those things. That has helped him in that way. And let me tell you, seeing the exaggerated forms of people walking around in everyday life, being inspired by someone walking by you and going, "Oh my gosh, I wish I could draw them," is a really fun feeling. And that's one of the cool things about getting involved in learning how to draw caricature. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I know it's not a complete critique. I'm not trying to push that drawing back to looking more like that person. I feel like he did okay with a few minor adjustments, but negative space is a very key thing that would really help everyone involved. That's why I wanted to make a video on it specifically here on the YouTube channel, and I hope it's helped you. I'm going to get out of here. God bless you guys. I'll see you next time on another Draw Too Much video. Consider joining the class. Link is in the description below. You only need to support me for one video a month at the $10 value. That's it, and it's really easy to set up on Patreon.com. Patreon helps you support your creators, and for one video at $10 a month, That's it. You come be a part of the class, you take part of the community, and you learn how to draw caricature. And you get that mentorship that I keep talking about in all of our videos, where you get mentored by not only me, but by everyone else who's also learning with you that maybe you're inspired by. Because let me tell you, some of these guys in here are insane artists, and they're all excellent in their own right. And I'm very excited to introduce you to them and introduce them to you, and to help you find your way to more success in caricature. Start making sales, selling it to your friends. Suddenly your name gets out there. Next thing you know, you're making a killing selling caricature. Well, let me put it this way. I've sold a lot of caricatures and I've made a lot of money, but not a killing. But I've definitely sold a lot, and my whole business thrives on drawing caricature. So I hope I've inspired you. We're going to get out of here. We'll see you next time right here on another Draw Too Much video. Hope that you've enjoyed this one. Hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment. You know what to do. Later.